What's up, guys? Tim also with DragBoss Garage. There you go. There's a 351 Cleveland going down the track, which brings us to tonight. Welcome to DragBoss Garage. This episode is with a live chat with Brent Lykins. Welcome, Brent. I appreciate everybody that can be here tonight. I thank my family, Mrs. DragBoss and the Bossettes. Thank you so much for giving me the time to be here to help you guys, the subs, see some behind the scenes and information from a private engine builder. And Brent, I appreciate you and your family for coming here, allowing you to be here with me. I wanted to give a shout out to Jeff Ford, great name, at Auto Resto Mod. Now that's a YouTube channel. Jeff Ford is an old car guy from Mustangs and Ford magazine. And actually he did a photo shoot on my car way back in like 2003. So he has a YouTube channel, and him and I did one on Cleveland's. We did a collaboration. I don't even know if it's up yet. He said he was going to wait a little bit, but I said, I'll talk about it. But he asked me, the 3 things about Cleveland's that you think that people don't understand or don't like. And I gave him all the usual stuff, cam timing, oiling, and block integrity, which we don't need to go in there. But it was just kind of an interesting thing that these are what people associate Cleveland's with. And right now, I'm in the middle of putting my Cleveland back together, that 409 Cleveland, Brent, where the oil pump pickup broke. Thanks. But it happened. And my builder, who came out of retirement, so to speak, he's 84 and he's doing the work with me. So I went down to his shop and helped him work. I got the video. I'll probably put it up tomorrow or something of us putting the short block together. Him and I doing it all on camera. Of course I'll shorten it, but interesting. And it's an old school machine shop, just like you see in the movies. So Bob, if you're watching this, you see this, I appreciate all the help you give me, my friend. We first met each other 20-something years ago. So we've built engines together since then. And it brings to the light one of the things that you and I had talked about. And things got switched around, guys, and I apologize for that because I made a mistake and said it was 7 when it was supposed to be Brent, because Brent has some obligations. So we're going to try to limit it to an hour, maybe an hour and a half if people are interested. But, Brent is a private engine builder, so to speak. He's a businessman. And in today's world, if you're watching this, 27 people who are, you already know what I'm talking about. Things are getting hard to come by. Parts are hard to come by. The durability of parts sucks. There's a whole litany of things that people have and that can complain about and that are trying to control us. So I asked Brent, I said, maybe we can just expound on this a little bit, because one of the things that I noticed that he's doing, and my engine builder has, is a 427 sock, a camera. Now he has one for sale, and I don't know, probably 75 grand, and you could take it away. It's all rebuilt. It's a beautiful thing. And in fact, right here is an original camshaft for a camera. You probably don't see these very often. It's like SK 1222 246 or something. So I'm going to do a little YouTube video on this. But that kind of brings me into Brent. You are building a camera now, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay. Tell me about it.
So if some of our viewers have followed my channel, I have a customer. His name is Dennis Toll. He's from Massachusetts. He runs a Galaxy station wagon.
Wow.
Yeah, with one of my 390s in it, and it runs in the 12s. It'll, pack the front tires, and it runs real hard. So he's always thinking about, what am I going to do in the future? So he said, what about when the 390 gives up, we put a camera in it? So wow. I said, it's your money, brother, whatever you want to do. So we just got the heads in just a couple weeks ago. So all this stuff.
Coons heads? Whose heads? Coons? Who?
Pond.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Robert Pond.
Okay. Now, is this a Pond block?
Yes.
Based on a Pond Genesis block?
Well, based on, you have an aftermarket genre of FE blocks, BBM, Pond, Shelby.
Okay.
And so they're pretty much like side oiler copies, and with some modern, niceties involved. So he's doing it'd be a 527 cubic inch single overhead cam.
Wow.
And he was lucky. So there was a company called RPM. They used to make crankshafts.
Yeah, I know who they are.
Business. They were the only one to make a 4 3/8 stroke steel crank for the FE. So I can have them made through SCAT, but they're like, $3,000 for a custom crank. So he was able to find a new in the box 4 3/8 stroke RP crankshaft. So 4 3/8 bore, 4 3/8 stroke, 527 cubic inches.
Wow.
And it will be very easy to make, 700, 800 horsepower with that kind of setup. So up until a few months back, I think I was the only one that was able to get cams ground. So there was a company that made cores, and they would sell to various cam companies, Cams, Bullet, whatever, and you would grind it just like you would normally grind a camshaft.
Okay.
Well, that company quit making those. And so I talked to Comp, and they started making their own cores out of a piece of billet steel.
Yep.
And we started making camera cams again. So
Nice.
So completely custom cams, and I'm able to dial in the cam timing from left and right. The camera's got such a long timing chain.
What's the difference between the two? What's advance or retard? Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, I usually advance one side about 4 degrees over the other side.
Right.
Yeah, because you get a lot of chain stretch.
Sure you do.
Across.
It's like, what is it, like 8 foot of chain or something?
It's humongous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could hang a horse with one.
What kind of chain is it? Like a Zeiss or something? Is that a aftermarket chain?
No, there's a couple. Well, I don't know who makes the chain. You can get them through a couple of different distributors. Robert Pond sells them, or Paul Monroe out of Australia. So there's a couple ways to come about those. But it's just a neat old engine. Everybody loves Boston motors and cameras. The huge valve covers and that sort of thing.
The I was talking about camshafts. The what's his name now? Eric Weingarten. You know what I'm talking about? I mentioned him quite a few times last night, and I wonder if he even knows I talk about him. But I don't know a lot of other headquarters that are producing videos that I can watch or review. But he was talking about like a camshaft challenge. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm in it.
You are.
Yeah.
Because you know what I was thinking of way back when, and if you saw, I had a picture of that 354 that you built up there. That was a picture there. I'm putting on a crank trigger assembly on it now.
Yeah.
So I remember that we talked about cams, and one time you took that thing, you went to lunch and then it had a Straub cam in it, I think, but you had a different cam in it. You went to lunch, put a different cam in it, and picked up 30 horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's trying to do something. If you're in it, do you know the basics of this rule business or?
Yeah. So let's see. It's an LS motor. It's a 408 LS motor.
Okay. And
it has a set of Eric's ported Pro Max cylinder heads. I think it's a Victor single plane intake, 1,000 CFM carburetor. The rules are it has to be a hydraulic roller.
Okay.
And it has to be at or under 660 valve lift.
Yep.
So that's the only rules.
Okay.
Yeah. So it started out as 10 guys, 10 entries. You throw him $100, you send him your cam, and you're entered. As time went on, I guess more people said we want to enter, we want to see more cams, we want to see more dyno time. And, he's like, hey, this is coming out of my pocket. I have to pay, it's already going to be several days of dyno time. He's just going to hot swap cams, day in, day out. So it's going to be, $600 or $700 a day. So he was like, if people want to chip in, we'll throw more cams in there. So I think now it's at like 18, and that was the cutoff point.
Wow.
Yeah. So he threw everybody's names in a hat, and his daughter picked the order that we were going to enter.
Yep.
And I'm number 12. So the engine will be nice and tired and worn out by the time he sticks my cam in there. But
oh man, that's crazy. That's murder on that motor right there.
For sure.
We'll see if the Chevy holds up. That's interesting. I always said though, and I've heard it before. Even I think Darren Morgan said it. Other people have said it. If you do a cam change, you're picking up 30 or 40 horsepower or something crazy, then you were way off to begin with.
Yeah.
You've heard that, right? Right?
Yeah, I've heard that. The closer you get to, I wouldn't say a perfect engine, but an optimal combination, you're just going to pick up incremental, horsepower.
Right.
Yeah, and there's kind of diminishing returns to a certain point. You might be able to pick up 5 or 6, but you're not going to pick up a ton.
Do you see it more a pickup? Do you see it more in duration, or do you see it in lift?
I see it in overlap. So
okay.
Overlap is a combination of your lobe separation angle and your advertised durations. That's where a lot of guys get into some serious trouble. So a lot of guys get into the mindset of, I want to pick a specific lobe separation angle before I even get started with any of the other specs. So they go into it with this mindset that, hey, it's a drag race engine. It's got to be a 108 lobe separation angle or something like that. So what happens is, I actually did a video on this the other day, and Daniel Powell of Powell Machine, he backed me up on it. So there is such a long list of lobes that you can pick from that your overlap can literally range 30, 40, 50 degrees. So if somebody goes into it with the mindset that I'm going to pick this lobe separation angle, and then they pick a specific set of lobes, you could end up with 100 degrees of overlap. There's nothing on this world that needs 100 degrees of overlap.
Right.
Yeah. So, I have guys have come to me and said, I've got a Crowler cam in my 351 Cleveland. It runs, 1050s or whatever. You think you could pick me up? Well, I'll look at those specs and, Cleveland's and tunnel port FEs and anything with a big honking intake port wants overlap.
Right.
And anything with a factory head wants overlap. Modern cylinder heads, you don't need as much. So you make allowances for how efficient the cylinder head is, and you can tweak that amount of overlap. I can keep the 50 thousandths durations the same. I can keep the lift the same. I can tweak that overlap number, and I can pick up some horsepower for you. So lots of guys get hung up on specific specs, and they're not looking at all the this particular parts of the cam.
Yeah.
And they get in trouble. But overlap is where I find the most horsepower.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got to understand cam timing to understand what you're talking about. Without that, you're sitting in the water, and a lot of guys don't know that. I mean, I am just getting a good grasp of cam timing and head flow. Now it's starting to all come together where I can get a better handle on it.
Yeah.
And understand when you change this cycle, what are you changing? When that valve's opening, what's happening? Because I don't know, it's so complicated, yet it's the secret to making power. And that's what you need,
It is. And the better the cylinder head is, the less cam you need.
Right.
So, you can think of the cam as a doorway. You got the door shut. You're going to open the door. If you've got a poor cylinder head, you're just going to creep some stuff in there, and then you're going to close the door, and then you're going to try to make power with it. If you have a really good cylinder head, you're going to open that door. It's going to cram in there, and then you're going to close the door, and you're going to make some big horsepower. So good cylinder heads take less camshaft. I've seen it when I've dynoed engines and then pulled the heads off and ported the heads. The same camshaft, don't change it. You just add head flow. The peak horsepower RPM goes up. So generally on a scale of like 100 RPM for every 10 CFM. Okay. Yep. So if you add 40 CFM to your head flow, you can pick up like 400 RPM with the same camshaft.
Sure.
So it just goes to show you the relationship between opening that door, all the stuff coming in, closing the door, making power.
that 409, I put all this money into it, okay, to go and take it to the dyno. Heads poured it intake. I mean, I'm talking Darren did all this work. I go up there. What do you think it made? 1 horsepower more. That was it. I was like, this is not happening. I said, there's no way. And they said, yep, that's what you got. I said, there's a problem. He already told me I had a problem. I didn't have enough cam or compression. So you're not going to see huge gains. So I had that was with 1 7/8 headers. That's what I ran for 20 years in my car. I switched over to a set of 2-inch dyno headers. Boom! Picked it up like almost 30 horse.
Yeah.
What it needed. It was choked. As soon as you open that up, now you add cam and compression. Now you might as well go up to about 800 horse.
Yeah.
Amazing. Open that door. You better get that out. You
That's
can open it all you want. You better have the back door open too.
That's right.
People have to think like that. It's a whole system. And until you put it together and think like that, that's where I think guys go bad, is because, I got to have that carburetor. It's nice. That's a Dominator, 1050. I know I can do that. Great. But it's not going to help if you don't have the rest of it to back it up. It's all a combination. And that's where I think talking to a guy like you, like if you're going to build a Cleveland, you would be the guy to call. Hey, what do you think? There again, though, time is not free. It takes time to answer people's questions. And I think that's an issue that we have here on the internet, is we want to provide help and information, but it is hard to answer every question. I'll tell you, I have a hard time doing it. You know what I mean? So I thought about, that's why I was mentioning to you, and I mentioned on the thing with Darren, where I may have a little bit of a membership on my YouTube channel where you can go there and you can get special, private stuff, we'll say. Learn all about cylinder heads from Darren Morgan, right from the get-go. All different aspects of engine build, whatever he can teach you, plus whatever I can throw in there on Cleveland's. You might even want to jump in and give a seminar or something, whatever. But it's a way to keep the information with us so that we have it. So the private guy has it. You know what I mean? Keep the big guy out of it.
Yeah, I do it. Unfortunately, there are some guys that think they are entitled to knowledge. I've had some instances of that on the forums. That people think that whatever information that you have paid for to collect, everybody should have access to that. And I've a lot of money buying on engines and changing cams and that sort of thing.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and I'm not, willing to just throw that out to just anybody,
Right. Nope, I get it. That's why I said, you know what I mean? That's why I don't want to just do videos on it and not have some kind of return for it, because it takes a lot of time from him to do it. It's not it's not free. Nothing is free in life, but also it's not there to make a profit, make a ton of money off it, but it's there to compensate you for your time so others can have this access to this information.
Yeah.
Just by the questions that we have and answer here, it might save a guy here, one of these 40 guys that are on here, say, oh, geez, I was thinking about a cam like that. I better rethink this. You want to have a bad street Cleveland, you don't need 260 degrees duration. Okay. No. You need about 225, 230, somewhere in that range, and cam it accordingly to the cylinder head. Then you'll have something that'll be mean on the street, along with the gear and the converter, you know what I mean? Or whatever, clutch if you got one. Those are the things that you think about, or how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, with the Cleveland, you have to work around the big intake port, and once you do that, you hear it all too often. My 351 Cleveland it's gutless under 6,500 RPM or whatever. These are not good street engines. How many times my Boss 302 is gutless? Right. It's all in the cam.
Damn, man, get that thing advanced. Put that thing in at 105 and see what happens, man. That's what people are driving a stock Cleveland, and whatever it is, Q Jet or Q Code, whatever, in a 71 Mustang or whatever. Yeah, they're dogs because that's how the timing was. I mean, the compression was 8 to 5 or something in 72 or whatever it was. What do you expect from that thing?
Yeah.
And like the Boss 429 has a bad reputation of being a slug, but you put some. Bill Ferretti, he's restored tons of Boss Mustangs. You put the right thing, the right cam, the right headers, that thing is a monster.
Sure.
It's all about how you do it. And that's why when people come to they want your expertise on this. So I guess I can see why you don't want to just give it away, because that's your living. You know, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Do you find it hard to get parts now?
It depends what it is. So
Okay.
it's a lot better than it was in 2020. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
That was horrible for getting parts. I mean, we were waiting 6 months for pistons, and
Oh, yeah.
it was literally horrible. Now you can pretty much get whatever you want. You know, I've got cranks on the shelf, heads, pistons, rods. I'm having trouble getting trick flow FE heads, and that's because they moved their whole shooting match. Edelbrock did move their whole shooting match from California. So Edelbrock casts the FE heads for trick flow.
Okay.
And they're just having trouble, you know, catching up and everything. But a good majority of my engines are really high-end custom pieces. So, you know, for the guy that's wanting a 347 or a 408, yeah, I can get you those parts, you know, pretty much overnight. The stuff that I'm working on right now, you know, Bryant cranks, Dyer's rods, you know, that sort of thing. You know, I had to wait 8 months for the last Bryant crank that I bought. So those camera heads, I waited all year long for that pair of camera heads to come in. So the more niche-y, custom, you know, high dollar stuff, the more you have to wait. But as far as the other parts, you know, we're doing pretty good right now. You know, we get pretty much anything you want.
Now, so you mentioned about I can get guys for parts for a 347 or 408, whatever. So do you sell parts, just parts? Like if I wanted to buy a crank and, you know, a rotating assembly?
Oh, yeah.
I can go through you for, you know, maybe get a Molnar crank. What do you use? Molnar crank and rods, or who do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, anything that you need to put any Ford engine together, modular, Cleveland, Windsor, big block Ford, FE, you know, flathead, anything that you need to put an engine together with, I can sell that to you. I'm an engine builder, but I'm also a parts dealer.
Okay. That's good to know, guys. There's 48 guys on here, so we all need parts somewhere. You know, I'll tell you, I really gave up buying anything from Jegs or Summit anymore, just because it's just, you know, back in the day, there was a guy named Alex Denisenko. You might know who he was. He was an old super stock racer from back in the day. He's dead now, RIP Alex. But that boy would sell parts. Back in the forum days now, you know, and boom, I would call him up. You know, we didn't have a lot of computers. Boom, yeah, I'll have it. A week I'd have it there. You know, 5 days there, it'd be sitting there, and competitive price too.
Yeah,
and that's what we need, is someone, you know, someone that we all can trust, we can all work through, that can get us a good deal on it. You know, no one's gonna get nothing for free. You know.
Yeah, but I can usually match Jag Summit. You know, whoever, free shipping, all that. You know, jazz. Yeah, I just sent. I just sent a crate of parts to England for a guy that wanted to build an FE, but didn't want me to build the FE. So we started from crank rods, pistons, you know, bearings, gasket set, intake manifold, cylinder heads, camshaft, lifters, rocker arms. I crated it up, sent it to England.
Wow.
Yeah. So anything anybody needs, I can.
Okay. You guys hear that? There it is. Lykins Motorsports. Give them a call or email. I mean, I don't know. You got to remember, when people are working for themselves, that every phone call takes away from what they're doing. So I'm not sure. Do you want guys to email you stuff? If it's something they really need to talk to you, they call you. What's your preferred method?
Email or call. So, you know, I have people that call and they don't leave voicemails, and they'll call 17 times in a row. You know, I don't know if it's a spammer. I don't know, you know, if it's somebody wanting to sell me, you know, a car warranty or whatever. But, you know, if you're going to call, I'm usually got my hands oily, greasy, and I can't pick up the phone. Leave a message and I'll call you back.
Well, there you go, guys. That's good information to know. And thanks for the offer, Brent, about when my motor went south, offering to get me parts or whatever that I needed. I appreciate it. I didn't need any help somehow. You know, like Calco said they'd sponsor me. So I was like, wow, I'll take that. Thank you, guys. They said, as long as you mention us in your videos, put up a few little video, stickers or whatever. We'll take care of you.
It's nice.
Okay. So I think I'm going to get a bunch of those in stock, like coated bearings for Cleveland to have in stock. I don't know. You have them? There's the man. See, you think great minds think alike. That's it.
Yeah.
I like it.
I spend, so all my engines are custom built, and I spend probably anywhere from $300 to $500 on bearings for each engine. So
Miss Mitchin, by the time you go through a couple sets, you're saying?
yeah. So by the time you pay for coated main bearings and coated rod bearings, and then you have to mix and match your rod bearings. So, what if you have to use a standard and an X bearing on your mains and a standard and an X bearing on your rods? You're in it for $500 of bearings, So I try to keep all that stuff on the shelf, and, people will they'll ask, why is your stuff so expensive? Well, I run coated bearings, and I run coated bearings for a reason, and you know what the reason is.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right.
And this stuff ain't cheap. So,
no oil.
Yeah.
And didn't have hardly any damage, man.
Your story is not the first one that I've heard like that.
Okay.
I heard of a guy who plumbed his oil cooler. So I'm sorry, I'm from Eastern Kentucky. So I said oil.
Yeah, I know
oil. Okay.
Yeah,
so he plumbed his oil cooler in backwards. So it just sat there and idled and ran, and it wasn't getting any oil pressure. So smoked the engine.
Yeah.
But when he pulled everything apart, the bearings were good because they were coated. So, burnt the rocker arms up because, you're not getting any pressurized oil to the top, that sort of thing. But the bearings were fine. I
don't know. Somebody said, I don't even know who, I don't even know where I got them from. I can't remember who turned me on right now, but actually was the guy that built this motor with me, Don Rohde, before he died, 75. So he hooked me up with the coated bearing stuff and told me about him. Yeah,
I'm going to step off camera just for a second. I'm going to grab.
Yeah. I can talk and keep 60 people going without any issues at all.
So I've got a setup with Calico. These are Federal Mogul bearings, and you can't buy these coated off the shelf. So on FE stuff, I run a lot of King fully grooved main bearings, and of course they don't come coated. So I try to stock those King main bearings that are coated from Calico, Federal Mogul bearings, and then obviously a lot of the stuff that's popular, your small block Chevrolet rod bearings, and
very popular.
302 main bearings and everything. You can buy those already coated off the shelf.
Okay, well there you go. Because I'm telling you, I'm a firm believer of coated bearings now that I can see what damage that they did prevent. And say hi, Ace.
Hi.
That's my daughter. She's 12. You have a 12-year-old daughter too, don't you?
I do, for sure.
Yeah. What year was she born?
2012.
Okay. What month?
August.
Okay. October 11, huh? There you
go.
Yeah,
she's an August 10th, so she's a couple months ahead of you.
Yep. What are you doing?
I wanted to see if Elaine was in here.
Okay. Nobody's in here but me and Brent and 63 people, so nobody else is here.
How's my hair look, Izzy?
Great.
I mean, that is the same haircut for the last 20 years. It's never changed, It never goes out of style.
Bald is beautiful, right?
There it is. Yeah, I feel it in the back sometimes, so I try to hide it from the camera so people don't see it.
How old are you?
I'll be 60 in March.
You are not.
Yeah. I'm 59 and almost 60.
I never would have guessed that, Tim.
Yep. That's what happens. You don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't get old.
Yeah.
You get old because I feel it every day when I get out of bed. So you get old. But I think it does make a difference in your health for sure. But
are we getting any questions from the
You know what? Oh my God. You know what I've been doing? I sit and been talking to you and not even looking at this. So that's my fault. But anyways, let's do it. we get on these, just see what I'm saying though, is we could sit here and talk for like 5 hours doing this stuff. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So here we go. Bill Ferretti, on board, time to learn. So hopefully you guys are learning something. I kind of forgot. It was just me and Brent talking. We just get on these tangents, but I appreciate you being here, Bill. R-Dub Felco, thank you. It's 8 a.m. Monday morning here in Guam. There you are. Hello, guys. Joel DeBoy. Hi, this is Joel DeBoy. Can you contact me? I don't know who you want to contact you, but let us know. It's probably you, Brent, because no one wants to talk to me. So there it is. Jim M. Hi, Tim. Oh, there you go. Hi, Brent. Good to see you.
He's a customer of mine. He's a good man.
Okay. Good to meet you, Jim M. R-Dub Falco. I've heard big heads look bulky in engine bay, but now I understand the dynamics of the canted valve and performance potential. That's right. That valve opens up away from that bore, automatic unshrouding, right? The more you rotate those valves, the higher the RPM goes, up to a certain point. Good stuff to know. I learned that from Darren. Let's see. Scott McConnell, I'm in. I'm glad you're here, Scott. We appreciate you being here. Robert Sesoskump, it's a 1976 9.5 Windsor block, stronger than a Cleveland block. You know, that's a tough call. I can't tell you about 1976 Windsors, but overall, it really depends on what you get with a Cleveland. It's the luck of the draw, because I'll tell you, I had Cleveland blocks. I've been racing them for 40 years, and I ain't never had really any big issues with them. I don't sonic test them. I just fill them and go. So I think they're strong if you have a certain amount of preparation for them, and I'll put that to that. Brent has a better opinion on that than I do.
So they each have their strengths. Windsors are always thicker and stronger in the bores. Clevelands are always stronger in the mains. You know, you can literally take a 9.5 deck or a 8.2 deck Windsor block, put some power through it, and they'll split in two. You don't see that with a Cleveland. You know, that's not their mode of failure in a Cleveland. But if you did sonic test a Cleveland block, you would see that a lot of them at standard bore can be under 100 thousandths wall thickness, which is kind of scary, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, just so we fill them too. I fill them up to the bottom of the water pump holes.
Yep.
And, you know, that improves your ring seal. So a lot of things depend on ring seal. And if your cylinder is thin and it's sitting here flexing, you're not sealing your rings up. So that's why we fill the blocks up.
Any Cleveland starts making 600 horsepower or more, those cylinder bores are moving. You better have it filled, because that block is already wiggling. You get to 700 horsepower, that thing's really dancing. You better have a girdle on it and studs. And regardless, they still move. You know, I just like, it's all about harmonics.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll move until it don't move. So just know when it ain't moving and stop before that. That's how I look at it. Let's see. Here's someone from Argentina. Mariano Leonel. Yesterday, Darren Morgan. Today, Brent. That is really cool. I'm a huge fan of Brent's channel. Regards from Argentina.
Good to have you.
¿Cómo está? Appreciate you being here. DragBoss Garage. Chris, I have a Cleveland with 90 to compression, 4 barrel heads with 246 050, and I make no vacuum with 4 millimeters of mercury in gear. Should I degree my cam advance a few degrees to help with overlap to get a better signal?
So advancing the cam doesn't change your overlap. That just changes your
power band comes in. You know,
I mean, you know, a lot of people there's a lot of what I would call general rules that really shouldn't be applied on the internet. So advancing the cam doesn't always limit your upper RPM and add the bottom end. Retarding the cam doesn't always raise the power band and kill the torque.
Yep.
Okay. So it's engine dependent. You know, I had one engine that I ran it on a 101 intake center line. It was 8 degrees advanced with a 109 lobe separation angle. And that's where it liked to run. So, you know, people look at all these generalized rules and think, well, you know, that's not going to work. That shouldn't happen. But engines don't read books. Engines don't have, you know, Internet Explorer. that they surf the internet with. So advancing your cam will not change the overlap, but it may increase the signal, as you're saying. So if you can get the engine to pull harder on the carburetor, more manifold vacuum, that's where you'll get your vacuum up. If you've got 4 inches right now, you're probably not going to get any more. And not to the point where you're going to be able to run, power brakes or anything like that. So that would require a cam change. And I noticed that he put the 50 thousandths duration on there, but all of that relies on your lobe separation angle and your advertised duration. So those 2 things control your overlap, which controls how much manifold vacuum you have. Overlap is when you have both valves open at the same time. If you have both valves open at the same time, there's no way that you can build vacuum. Okay. Your piston has to pull against a closed, top in order to build vacuum.
I'll tell you what, just looking at that, and I don't know, you can comment on this, Brent, but I would say right now that car is a dog. That cam is way too big for that. At 9.8-to-1 compression, you need 225 at 050, something in that range. That cam's too big for that car. Second of all, if you're pulling only 4 millimeters of mercury in gear, you're already going to be having that thing running way over rich. That if you have a power valve in there, you need a two in there, or get the power valve out of there. This is just I'm not saying it's a bad setup. It just needs to be fine tuned. What that engine needs, that cam right there needs, is about 10.5-to-1 compression, 10.8. You put that up, now you're going to see a big change in that thing. I don't know about the vacuum. I care less about vacuum.
Most people overcam.
Yeah. Yep. You'd be surprised.
You hear a lot of guys say, I pick cams by looking at the bottom of the page. They see the cam catalog with all the different grinds, and they go to the bottom because that's the biggest one. I
did that. And I'll tell you what changed my life in 2000. And this is before I met you, is I got a program called Dyno 2000 and Drag 2000. So they're the first simulators back then. And I'm telling you, man, if you knew your head flow, which I had, you put your stuff in there, I've always come within 10 to 15 horsepower from the dyno, and probably within 1/10.5 of the track. As long as you got your combo and your ducks in the row, the right data that you're putting into this thing. It's pretty amazing. And that really helped me look a lot further ahead, because you could test stuff. You could see what happens when you change cams, or change overlap. You can see, it's not always going to correlate to exact data, but it gives you an idea what the change will do. So that's
some of that software, some of those different softwares are nice. They have a lot more inputs. I've seen desktop dyno, and
that's what it is.
It won't allow you to put in both 50 thousandths and advertised durations both.
Right.
And to me, that's a red flag going up, because there's so much that you learn from the difference between advertised duration and 50 thousandths duration. So your lobe intensity is there. How aggressive the lobe is there. Without knowing all of that, you can't really make a good guess on what your engine's going to do.
Bill Ferretti, Brent, when you build stock block Clevelands, do you internal balance to keep the crank from turning to bubble gum and stressing 2 and 4 mains and cracking the saddles? Thank you. Thanks, Bill. We appreciate you being here.
I pretty much internally balance everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yep. That and get an aftermarket crank and get rid of the oil timing they had before, and you're good to go.
Yeah, if it's like a 347, a lower RPM engine that the crank comes already set up for like a 28-ounce imbalance, I'll do that. But anything that I'm, wanting to make any kind of horsepower with or whatever, it's internally balanced.
What would you say? My opinion, I'd probably say anything over, once you get to close to $7,000, you want internal balance. Does that sound right, or do you think it'd be less?
I usually go less than that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't really have a reason. And,
what's your number?
Oh, what? Okay. I'm sorry. Pretty much anything over 6.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, I'll be straight up and say I don't have a reason for it. It's just, Yeah, I mean, over years, you're like, oh, that works. I'm not going to change it. So
See? That's me in the high volume oil pump. Works for me. I don't change nothing. So people, I love how they talk about it and beat an old horse 100 times, about what are they going to do to fix this oil situation. I'm going to make another video on it soon, just to kind of make a more concise thing and kind of nip it in the bud again. But anyways, appreciate it. Eric McMahon says, Lykins Motorsports works on cylinder heads that I have never, ever seen. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes I've never seen them either.
But they get on the engine and it goes. So there you go. Big fans of Lykins. Thanks, Vamp. We appreciate you being here.
I like his avatar.
Yeah, I do too. Mariano, do you use Engine Analyzer Pro when you have to choose timing events when you make a custom cam?
No. So I use a valve event calculator by the name of Pat Kelly developed this valve event calculator. So I will use that to check all my overlap and all my valve events, and also to use it as a kind of a general indicator of what I can get away with on pump gas. So it's got a dynamic compression ratio calculator in it. I'm not 127% on board with dynamic compression ratios. I think you can get yourself in trouble by doing that. But I do have some self-imposed limits that I've put on myself over the past 15 years or so, that I know that this compression ratio will work with pump gas and this one won't, or this cylinder head doesn't like it because it doesn't have an efficient combustion chamber. So,
Yep.
But that's the calculator I use.
A buddy of mine, his name is Larry Moe. Do you know him? I think he made
so.
that.
Oh, yeah. Mo.
Yeah.
MEAUX, right?
MEAUX, but it's pronounced Mo. I call him Mo. But anyway, so he hooked me up with some stuff on Bob Glidden's cylinder head data from his 79 Pro Stock car. He had flowed those heads and had the cylinder heads. Actually, he still has intake. And I'm calling you up for that. He's got to send it to me, he said, because I like it and I wanted it. But he's an amazing guy. He does, what is he? I can't think of his program that he has. Do you remember what it's called?
Yeah, so Larry's stuff is top notch.
Yep. He's the man, I'm telling you. What's this say? George, Tim, that one of your patients over your right shoulder.
Other shoulder. There you go.
Yeah. That's Agnes. That's our skull. I've had her. She's real. I've had her for, I don't know, probably since 2004 or 5. I still got the original box for her.
That's a real skull?
Yeah. Yep.
Female?
Yeah.
Wonder what happened to her.
Well, I bought it from a guy. He runs the heart-lung machine when we did heart surgery. His brother was a dentist. So that's the skull they used when they were in dental school. So it came in a Scientific American, whatever the box is, Scientific American, whatever it is. Beautiful with all the instructions. So I think I paid like $150 for it, back then. Now they're worth like $3,000 or something if someone wants them. You know what I mean?
That's hard to believe that was actually a living person back at some point,
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Right, Agnes? Garage safe. Yeah, kids like her. Like to open her mouth and stuff, and she don't care. She don't complain, VRM, 2 of my favorite channels on one live stream. I mean, Jesus, how good can it be, VRM? I love it. And that's the thing. I love to come here and I start talking a mile a minute and my adrenaline flows. And this stuff really pumps me up, man, because you know what? Me and Brent are probably 2 of your most Cleveland fanatic guys. I just make a little more noise about it. I talk about it more. And not a lot of guys out there will talk building Clevelands. They'll talk Windsors and all that other stuff and big block Ford, but there aren't a lot of guys that really say, I can build a Cleveland. Even some of the big guys don't want to do it. They don't want to mess with it. Yeah. So let's see. Time is a big deal for engine builders. You're damn right it is. Time is a big deal for everyone because we only get so much of it, so don't waste it. Joel DeBoy, Tim, I want you to contact me. I posted my email afterwards. I think it has been removed. Okay. How about this? My email is this, thpa351@gmail.com. It's on my YouTube channel under About. I'll put it down here. But, yeah, I'll see if I can find it, Joel. Anyways, let's keep rolling. William Rose, Cleaver builds, good, bad, or is it worth it? Probably the best build. I don't like them, but they're probably the best build you're going to find. Go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, so your cleaver builds open up a completely different realm of making horsepower.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because you can do a 9,500 deck block with a Cleveland head, and you can get up to like 470 or 480 cubic inches.
Mm-hmm.
I just built one, 464 cubes with some ported CHI heads and a sheet metal tunnel, sheet metal intake. So yeah, what was it, Agnes complaining about something?
I thought she was actually. Pull up a chair and sit down. Okay.
Yeah, so your cleaver stuff, people don't realize a Boss 302 is a cleaver. So
right,
Windsor block, Cleveland heads, and they're awesome. I love that combination.
I'll tell you, I got a brand new Windsor block. It was the first Ford Motorsport block they made right after the A3 heads. It's A351 block. So it's basically a Windsor block with Cleveland, mains and that kind of stuff. But I want to build the cleaver, I want to see what I can do with it just to see what it's like. I got the block. I got enough parts. I might as well get one together.
Yeah, I mean, that's what your Cup engines were for decades. Yeah.
Bill Fioretti, Brent, why are many new late model V8 pushrod engines, i.e. Chevys, LS, and Fords, Godzilla, etc., configured with inline valves as opposed to breathing better canted valves, cost, reliability? Now I understand the question you were asking, Bill, last night. Okay.
My guess is it's because of packaging. In my mind, I could be totally out of left field here, but manufacturers in my mind would want a smaller engine so you can make the car smaller, so you can make it more efficient, that sort of thing. That's my guess. I don't know, but
what? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
The thing I was thinking is that these are all bigger bore engines to begin with. You know what I mean? And that already automatically there's no valve shrouding. So to give them a canted valve is just extra money, I think. And I don't know this. And if you really care, Bill, I will talk to Brian Wolf, who made the Godzilla. He designed it for Ford. I can text him right now and ask him this. But this is a good question, and that's my opinion.
Let me look up what the bore size is.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah,
I could text him, but I don't want to take away from the 82 people here and see what he says. You could even text him if you wanted to. Now let's keep going. Luke Staley, if you're in the market for a custom Ford roller, Lykins is fast and easy to communicate with, and I've had great experience so far with the couple of interactions thus far. Now, with that said, that's exactly what you're doing, is giving a compliment to the man that I'm talking to. And I appreciate you giving him some positive reinforcement and telling him that he's doing the right thing. And that's what people need, is critique, to know that they're going in the right direction. So we could all say how bad things are. And we all want to sometimes say that. But it takes a lot of people to say, hey, you did a good job. So thanks you for that, Luke Staley.
So that's a good point on why I'm doing this cam challenge with Eric Weingartner. And I just totally lost my train of thought.
What we're looking about is to see what the cylinder bore of the Godzilla is, to see if there's a difference in unshrouding.
So that is 4220 is the bore size on that.
There you go.
Yep.
You don't need to have a canted valve, but I don't know. We'll figure that out, Bill.
Okay, the cam thing. So one of the reasons why I'm wanting to do this cam challenge is because I sell probably 200 cams a year, and they're all custom cams. They're all spec'd by me. I sit down, I take 30 minutes and look at an engine combination and go through it. I want to know, aside from my own dyno testing. So I've done dyno testing. I've put an engine on the dyno, swap cams all day long, but I want to see more of that, because most guys would be happy with anything that you sent them. Okay.
They don't know any better.
Yeah, because they've never compared it to something else. Okay. So you take the average guy who buys a 282S comp cams, that's I love that cam. You might hear him say that, that cam does everything that I want it to, but they'll say that because they've never compared it to something else.
Mhm.
And if you compare it to another cam that makes 20 more horsepower for the same money, then there's no reason not to buy a custom cam. You understand what I'm saying? So one of the reasons I'm doing this cam challenge is so I can prove it to myself that I halfway know what I'm doing. And I'm giving the customer the very best, of my brain. So there's a lot of major cam companies that are not entering into this cam challenge. And I think it's because, now I'm not trying to be negative or derogatory or anything like that, but if something happened and they entered this cam challenge and they were on the bottom rung,
Yeah.
then, look at what happened to their business. And it's not because, it may not be because their cam stinks. It may be because the dyno corrected a different amount one day than it did the other day, or the engine's wearing out.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So, I'm kind of taking a chance on it too. First of all, from the standpoint that I'm a Ford guy. I've never built an LS motor. Now, you may argue that all engines are air pumps and I should be able to go through the iterations of what the engine needs, but that's not the totality of the whole combination. This particular engine uses Cadillac hydraulic roller lifters. It uses a particular rocker arm. I don't have a clue about Cadillac roller lifters or this particular rocker arm. I don't have a clue on the push rod length in comparison to that particular block's deck height. So there's a lot of stuff that's not in my brain that is in my brain for a Ford engine. So, if I'm doing a cam for an FE and it's a particular rocker arm set, I know how rigid that rocker arm set is because I've used it. I know what push rod I need. I know everything about it. So, yes, all engines are air pumps, and LS is an air pump. A small block Mopar is an air pump. I should be able to pick a cam for it, but there's a lot of stuff that I just don't know. So I could be putting myself in a bad spot in this contest. I don't know. But you only get data one way, and that's by trying it.
Right? Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
That's right.
Remember that. And even if it isn't what you think or it doesn't perform like you think, so what? You do your best at what you do. What do I tell you to do every time you do something?
110%.
That's right, 110%. We don't do 90, we do 110. And if we falter such, that's how it is. But we try to strive for the best. And that's what you're doing. Because what you know is cam timing. You don't know the deck height. You don't know this, that, other thing. You're not building a super stocker, but you know the events and you know how they work. And that's the secret. Once you know that, that can help you have the advantage over the other guy. AC, Cullen, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Bruce, on the Cleveland 4-barrel open chamber head, would it be a good idea to have a dome on the opposite side of the plug for 10.5 compression?
Let me think about that one for a second.
I mean, they make dome pistons for that, so I guess I'm trying to figure out what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not really for sure.
You're going to flame front if you move stuff around like that. What's that, Brent?
Domes are kind of a necessary evil sometimes because they get in the way of flame travel.
Right.
So what he's asking is if you have a dome on the opposite side from the plug. I don't know. The amount of open chamber Cleveland stuff that I've done is so low on the scale that I would have to get ahead and look at it to answer this question.
I can just tell you, though, by looking at the way the flow is coming in through the valves, something's going to disrupt it. It's going to have a turbulent or something's not going to right the way that's set up just in my brain. But what do I know? Thanks, Bruce. We appreciate it. I think Darren Morgan uses Larry Moe's Pipe Max. That's it, Pipe Max. I don't know about that, Eric. I'm not sure. We haven't talked about it. I'll ask him. Thanks. Motor Dog Garage, building a 358. I have a set of stock rods, pile shopping, bushed with domes on top. What will the stock rods take before they let go? What rod would you recommend? I would buy aftermarket rods to begin with. They're so cheap, you might as well do it. But
yeah. So if it's going to be making any horsepower whatsoever, I would pass on those. And the thing is, you could take a set of factory rods that look beefy, but they've been fatigue stressed for the last 50 years. So that's where, and I know he's saying he's, peened them and polished them and everything. Right. If you're building a Hoscat of a motor, spend the extra few bucks and put some good rods in there.
Steel.
Yeah. The thing is, I think Eagle may be the only company that makes an aftermarket Cleveland rod that's not $1,500. And I really don't like Eagle stuff, but I'll use it when I have to. I just did a Cleveland last year and used a set of Eagle rods. They use Windsor bearings on a Cleveland, which is I don't understand, but I'd have to see if Molnar makes a Cleveland specific rod.
Yeah, they do. I run them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
And they're not. I don't know what they are. They're probably. I don't know what those things cost.
Well, hold on a minute. You got a stroke crank, right?
Yeah, 4-inch. Yep.
So that's a small block Chevrolet rod.
Yeah. Well, it's according to Molnar, it's the Ford correct offset, which they said adds 15 to 20 horse. I don't know.
So that's different from a Cleveland rod, which has a 2.311 rod journal. So
right.
I don't know if they make one with it.
I think they do.
Okay.
Because I was on their website the other day, but I can't tell you that for sure, but I thought they did.
Okay. Well, if they do, I would pick a Molnar rod. If they don't, then you're kind of stuck with Eagle, and you'll have to have them, resized and everything.
Let me put this up. Hey, let's see. What is this? Daniel Wilson. I'm trying to figure out how to get that on there. There it is right there, brother. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. The best never rests. Thanks, Tim and Brent. We appreciate you being here, my friend. Never miss any DragBoss or Lykins shows. Thank you. Okay, let me give you a kiss. Love you.
Love you.
Be good.
Bye.
All right, I'll be in. And here's the thing, guys, and this is why we kind of cut it off. We both have family obligations, and it's getting close to an hour, so we just think how we go. I want to kind of finish the rest of these guys that have been here, at least, Brent. But, that's the thing. I'm glad you guys took the time with us, Premier Families, to spend here so we can talk to you, kind of give you the ins and outs of Cleveland's and just engines in general and building from different standpoints. Mine's more of a racer and, no nonsense, and Brent's the builder that has to make longevity and horsepower at the same time. So it's quite a challenge. The main CD Burlock. This guy that worked with Glidden said Glidden tested a cam that had a flat cliff to replicate a valve symptom. It's possible. I wouldn't put it past him, In fact, I'd ask Rusty, but he doesn't really remember that kind of stuff. Darren may. Darren worked with Bob for a couple years, so he may know that. I'll ask him. William Rose. Neo Mustang on YouTube wants to build a cleaver. Well, good. Tell him to hook up with Brent, and he can build him a cleaver. Eric McMahon. Eric Weiner puts a considerably bigger cam in his LS test mule and only made 1 more horsepower and lost a considerable amount. Yeah. Yep. That's people have done it. Randy Lopez, awesome Ford knobs. Thank you. We appreciate it. George, so Tim, when checking float level, do you use the skulls of your enemies to catch the spilled fuel? Actually, you know what? I used a urinary bladder.
Oh, dude, that was wrong.
No, I don't know what else. But to ask, I got to laugh because if you don't, you're going to cry. Anyways, Bill Fioretti. Yes, need to touch base with an insider. Thank you. Yes. Packaging perhaps, but perhaps there's a popular Ford. Yep, the popular Ford Coyote. There you go.
Yeah, that's a big old motor too.
Mm-hmm. AC, my experience with the Cleveland on the dirt tracks. I found that the Cleveland liked a smaller and closer lobe separation angle using stock heads. Your thoughts, Brent?
All depends on the overlap. So a specific application needs a specific overlap, and you just tune the lobe separation angle to get to that point. That's pretty much all I can say.
I mean, it makes sense to me. Just think about it. In a drag car, you're doing the same thing. You want a tighter lobe separation angle, 109 or something, or 108. I mean, you're coming off the turn. So with that dirt car, your foot's coming off. You hit the turn, you let off. Now you got to come back on. That power recovery. You know what I mean? That pressure recovery. So yeah, I think that does make a difference. That's my opinion. But there you go.
Yeah, it depends on the head. I ran a lot of Cleveland stuff at 112, 113. It just depends on the head.
There you go. He's talking about like stock 4V heads, I think. So, All right, let's see. Trigger Happy Customs. Props to see you willingness to give it a try. I'm a Chevy guy, and I still watch this channel because gearheads are gearheads. That's exactly right. Gearheads are gearheads. And I'll tell you what about gearheads. I was talking to Darren Morgan about this last night. Gerald Brand from Brand Racing. I mentioned to Brent about having some kind of coalition where we could have like a coalition, a gathering of people in the know that want to be in the know, you know, where we can share knowledge. I already talked to you about this, Brent, earlier in the podcast. So just something like that I'm talking about. So yeah, I think it's good that we can share what we can. I don't have anything that I have proprietary. I don't make my living off this. So Brent does. So his stuff is like the guys in Australia. They like to keep what they have to themselves because that's how they make their living. But we'll try to get you what we can. We'll sneak in and get the inside view. You're welcome, AC.
AB.
A Molnar 5.78 rod.
Well, yeah.
And I think they make one. I think they do. But let's keep
right,
going. Bruce, a builder friend of mine, cut the opposite side of the spark plug dome off, a 12-to-1 TRW piston, and detonated worse. Okay. I'll make a note of that because I won't do that. Thank you, Bruce. Joel DeBoy, props to Brent and DBG. Great content. You're welcome, man. I can share what I can for you to try to teach you about Cleveland's. You know, I'm no expert. I've just been doing it for 40 years, and I do what works for me. And it's just basic, easy stuff. And if I can do it, you can do it. And then you take that knowledge and you put it to something else. It doesn't have to be just a Cleveland. It all kind of comes around. Luke Staley, recently looked at some B3 SVO heads. Worth the effort and some vintage feel. Are they modern 3V head superior? Okay, these heads came after the A3. They're a great head. However, they come unported. So the ports are real small. You're going to spend, I can tell you right now, to make that thing to work well, you're going to put that's $2,500 at least to put in a set of those heads to get them to run. That includes valves, valve springs, and that kind of stuff. Are they worth the effort? Yeah, they're worth the effort. They make a lot of power. They're just like the A3, but they're smaller ports. So they actually will make a lot more power in the lower end range. So yeah, they were pretty good for their time. And after that came the C302 head before the Yates. So the problem with these heads, and think about this, if you're going to put them in a car, they ain't just going to bolt in. They're not going to fit in any kind of car that has shock towers. That has to be back. Also, you're going to need custom headers to put these heads in anything. No one makes headers for that. There you go.
So Molnar does make a Cleveland rod.
Yep,
for sure.
I thought I saw that. They're probably about, what are they, like $900 or something, or $800?
$700.
Well, there you go. So you can get them from Brent for $700.25. All right, let's keep going. VRM, I think Glidden was trying to replicate the effects of lifting valves. You know, he was probably trying to do that for sure because they didn't have a Spintron back then. He was trying to replicate any kind of deflection that he's going to get from the cam, wanting to throw that valve train up in the air when he's got lifts. They're probably approaching, you know, 890, somewhere in there. You know, their valve springs were not there, and that's the holding back issue, is the springs, you know, the valve train. But that's a good point. Victor Andrade, do Cleveland blocks crack around the cam bearing journals inside? No.
Dad, I'm gonna go and crack my food.
Okay, give me a kiss. Sorry, guys. Family first. I love you.
Bye, Dad.
Yep, I'll talk to you.
Go this way.
Yes, please.
Bye, Dad.
Bye. Find the right beat. Another live session. Yes, there is. And I'm going to have another one coming up pretty soon. I'm talking with a guy named Jay Zokel. Do you know Jay Zokel?
No of him.
Yeah. So he wants to do a live chat. I don't know. People, sometimes I'm into doing this. Other times I don't even want to do this. Like I won't know what to say. You know, I haven't done one in so long. I'll forget how to do it or whatever. I don't know.
He builds a lot of FEs.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
So let me see. RW Falco. Can I get you to elaborate on performance characteristics between Trick Flow Twisted Wedge R series and TFS high ports and a high RPM compression versus boosted?
They're pretty close to the same. Twisted Wedge R head will perform pretty close to the same as a high port, but you don't have a lot of the twisted valve arrangement in the high port. You can most of the time, run a standard inline piston with those. But either one of those heads, those are my go-tos for a high dollar drag race motor or something like that.
I mean, you put a set of high ports on with 14 5-1, somewhere in that range, and you're going to make 800 something horsepower.
Probably every bit of it.
Big cam, you'll be right there. Let's see. Here we go here. Bill Fioretti, thank you guys. Hope you guys are getting double time for working Sunday and Tim pulling a double shift. You know what? It is. It's like now I'm all tuned up on this and piped up because I enjoy doing this and seeing Brent's smiling face and that new haircut he got. I just was like, you know what? This is just one of those things where I'm into it again. I have a list of people that want to do this, that I want to do it with, and it's just you got to get in the mood, right, Brent?
Yeah, you don't know who you're going to mesh with either.
Say that again?
You don't know whose personality you're going to mesh with. You and I get along well, and we talk back and forth well with each other.
Some people are really tough. I think I did an interview. I can't think it was, but it might have been like Steve Morris the first time, talking with him. Very like. So, Steve, what have you been doing? To answer the question, not a lot of going back and forth. Then you better, Warren Johnson with the same way. You better have your questions ready and know what you're going to say before you step on that stage, or he's going to shut you down, or you're going to shut down. David Reed, does a Clevo have an offset on the rods, or are they centered? Molnar makes an offset connecting rod, which makes them centered. The Chevy rods are off-centered. That's the difference between the two. So I don't know about, does a Clevo have offset rods? I don't know what that.
He means a Cleveland standard, a factory Cleveland rod.
Okay.
So every rod has a little bit of offset in it. Here's an interesting little note, though. Those rods that Molnar offers that have a special forward offset in them.
Got them. Yep.
I've never seen a difference in horsepower with them.
I never saw a difference either. Not one.
Yeah.
So not that they're great. You see them, they center. I think it may not make horsepower in this situation, but I still think it affects that rod. When that thing's going up and wanting to rip the crank out of there, that's being centered. Those vectors are now centered in that crank journal or rod journal to me. So that to me makes a difference. I don't know. Sounds good when I talk about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Find the right beat. You're exactly right. Family first. That's exactly right. We're at 108 now, Brent. So you tell me when it's time to be done.
You got a lot of questions left to answer?
Let's see. We got someone's VRM's talking about lofting the valve, valve loft. You know what I'm talking about? The centrifugal force of that, when it gets up to the lobe, it actually, Darren Morgan mentioned it. The valve, the roller lifter on it, the motion, the inertia pushes it off, and it actually gives it a thrust, a loft off the lobe by a couple thousandths. They can see it on the dyno. They can measure it.
Yeah. So that is a trick that's used in a lot of NHRA stock eliminator stuff.
Pro stock, yep.
Where you are limited by class rules to a specific amount of lift. And those guys have to run the same lift that the factory engines had. Okay. So a lot of these guys are running like 498, 470 lift, way down there. So what VRM is talking about is what we call a square lobe cam. All right. So it slings that valve open, and sometimes you get a good bit more than 478 or 496 lift or whatever. So it's an aggressive cam, but it gives you a little bit of an edge by opening the valve up a little bit more.
You know what? Let me just say something. Robert Bray. If this is the Robert Bray from, let me think, North Carolina. Yep, I can remember now. So he hooked me up with a bunch of other guys that have all these old Ford parts. So if that's you, Robert Bray, big shout out to you. I'm glad you're here. But you're right. The A3 head's exhaust port is exactly as the high port Cleveland. That's exactly what an A3 head is a high port Cleveland, only in iron with filled ports. So thank you. It's good to hear from you, Robert Bray. Here's one for you that maybe you can answer, Brent. Hi. What's Brent's thoughts on raising port angle for better line of sight, and why is it not done on a regular basis like Ben?
Generally because that takes a very tall intake manifold. So if you got a straight shot at the valve from your cylinder head port, you almost need a straight shot from your plenum down to that cylinder head port, which makes your intake manifold very tall. So that's why, you can only fit so much intake into an application.
Now, I also know Darren mentioned last night also that you don't want the port exactly as straight as possible, because the port angle affects the short turn. It's the way the air comes down. And if you have that straight, it needs to be bent a little bit. I can't give you the exact thing. I just remember hearing it last night, but that's also a factor on it.
Yeah, you got to be able to hit that turn. If you overshoot the turn, then it's bad. If you undershoot the turn, it's bad. A 4-barrel Cleveland head is one of the worst for not having the short turn radius in the correct spot. So yeah, you got to create that angle and that path for your air fuel charge to hit that short turn radius in the right spot.
RW Falco. Yep. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, man. Let's see. AC Cullen. Ran Cleveland's on the dirt tracks for 11 years. Never cracked a stock block. That was my experience with the blocks. Thank you for that. Appreciate that much. George. Seem to remember someone, Billy Gobod, saying Glidden messed with purposely lofting the valves for something he saw on a screwed up cam. I do remember hearing something like that, George, but it's hard for me to give you the exact comment on that. But thank you. Eric McMahon, Tim Halston is loaded. He's a doctor. He's loaded. You know what? I make a good living. I will comment on that. I do make a good living. But I went to college for 11 years to get where I am and paying back all that loan. And I put the time in. I'm at 25, going on 26 years in medicine. So now I'm kind of getting to the point, my friend, where I want to be out of it. I just want to be a YouTuber and build engines like Brent.
But hey, this isn't all what it's cut out to be.
RW Falco, I enjoy Lykins Motorsports videos. I do too, because Brent shows you, when you watch his videos, you might not see him gabbing away like this. You see his hands or see what he's doing. But the key is you're seeing what he's doing. And that's the key. You watch that, because I've rewound stuff to get stuff to make sure, I got to make sure I do it that way next time. I must have been doing it wrong or something. I catch a lot of good stuff there. There it is, Robert Bray from South Carolina. I told you I remember you. I remember talking to you about 6 months ago. I'll call you tomorrow, too. Be there. We got parts to deal with. Dr. DragBoss. There it is, baby. You heard it, Tim. Good things don't come easy, and hard work pays off. And that's a fact right there. And I tell my kids that all the time. And that's what Brent is telling you right here by taking time to do this YouTube channel. That good things take time. And if you want something done by a professional, you go to a professional. I needed transmission lines done on my truck, 2013 Ford. Now I can get under there and do it. I know how to do it easy. I could buy the parts and do it, but you know what? I ain't doing it. I'm not laying on my back, getting dirty, oil in my face, blah, blah, blah. It's cheaper for me to pay someone that does it for a living and get it done right the first time than it is for me to lay on my back, bust my ass, and cut my fingers and save, $430. But I don't care about that. Time, that $430, that time was here making a video. Seriously, you have to think like that. Your time is money, Brent. I appreciate you being here with my subscribers, and giving them your insight. Thank you for that.
If I weren't here, I'd be flying airplanes.
That's it. Damn it, man. He's on that. He's high as a kite. Let's see. Rage and Bull 340. Great discussion, guys. My question, which is more preferable on the street, a large chamber head with flat top pistons or a small chamber head with disc? Both at 11. Flat top all the way, baby.
Small chamber with a dish piston.
Really?
Yeah.
I picked flat top all the way. That's me.
So one of the things that we learned from after. So the cup guys always do stuff, and then you find out about it later. They run a full spherical dish, and the way that piston dish is made, it lends itself for more complete combustion. In addition to that, a small chamber head with a dish piston means you have a lighter piston. So anything that's lighter is to a certain point is better. You can make things too light and they're not rigid and then they don't work. But I would most of the time rather have a very small head combustion chamber and a light piston.
There it is. Now we should build an engine and really test it. That'd be the funnest thing to do. Get a mule and do that. AC again. Brent, thank you so much. I've watched many of your videos. Thank you. Appreciate it. Joel DeBoy, you don't want the runners in the manifold aimed at the carb, aimed more towards the ports on the opposite side of the engine. Utilize pulse to fill runners. Okay, there you go. Thanks. Kyle Riegel, you might be surprised how many subscribers y'all share. What does that mean?
Kyle's a customer of mine.
Oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
He's a good boy, too.
Appreciate it. Thank you for watching my channel, too, as well as Brent's. Yep, there it is again. Okay, so we pretty much answered the questions. It's 1 hour and 16 minutes, so we're kind of good on schedule for both of us. And we're going to call it a night. You got any questions or anything else you would like to say, Brent?
I'm good, brother.
All right. Well, guys, I appreciate you taking time to come here and be with me and Brent tonight, just for this hour and 15 minutes. I hope you got some information from it that may help you on your next build. And like I said, now that I know this, Brent, because I'm looking for someone that I can just make a phone call, say I need this, and not have to be dealing with anything. So this could be a good thing for all of us. So I appreciate it. Almost a doctor and certified gentleman. No brag, just fact. There it is, baby. Thank you. We'll see you at DragBoss Garage. We're always seeing and learning something new. Trust me on that one.